Okay then, I don't know how this is gonna go, but a while back I started making this series called K-Bots, which is just my attempt of cataloging all of these K'NEX battle bots, which I've made over the past 5 years, or 10 years probably. I did not get very far. I made like 2 episodes. I never really went beyond that, so I'm just gonna make like one longer video, just like go through all of these things and try and remember the names and like what their purposes were. Probably gonna break some of these down as well, just because I need the space. I'm kind of breaking down a lot of stuff right now. We'll see how it goes. So, I think I made a video on this one. Well, I forgot the name of it. The whole purpose was that it was basically made of scrap parts I got from other builds and other random stuff. Whole purpose was that it's kind of like Jackpot, I guess, except it's a flipper, obviously. Made it so that it couldn't really get stuck anywhere, although that kind of doesn't work sometimes. Yeah, it was just kind of supposed to be like a rookie underdog that didn't cost much at all, and it kind of did well. This was Goliad. I know that one's name. Kind of, I guess, just obviously an overhead spinner, but I did put a motor on it. This is like the only one I've ever put a motor on, just because I could. Thought that was pretty neat. The drive pods were these gray bits on the sides of the areas. 4-wheel drive. Kind of stupid, but I guess if you've seen Double Dutch, then that was kind of the drive inspiration. I made something like it in Robot Arena 2 as well, but it was just supposed to be a massive spinning blade that kind of just wrecks shop, which it does a lot. I liked these orange pieces. I forgot what they were for. I think they were for roller coasters or whatever, but I thought it would like give you an extra little tooth and that would be fun. But yeah, it could get up to a pretty good speed. In story, it won a lot of stuff. Vertical spinner, forgot the name. The entire purpose of it was that I was trying to stretch the K'NEX as much as possible, so you can kind of see here that it's bending a lot. The frame, I guess it's kind of supposed to be a glass cannon. I also really like this little back bit here that I did. You can also still see more of it bending. Like, that is not supposed to be like that. And then, pretty nasty spinner. Just supposed to be blunt force and also have a lot more kinetic energy than usual. It could chuck other lighter things a decent bit, but it can't really like do much. It often just like hook or like not do anything to those sorts of things, I guess. It's not really. That was what I was supposed to do, yep. Definitely. Did not realize that motor was like this. But yeah, I'm just trying to break these down, so we'll figure out like which ones I don't really care about too much, which ones I do, and we'll go from there, like which ones I'm gonna break down eventually. We'll get to the more exciting ones later. I need to fix this. Damn. I didn't realize that could happen to this axle. I guess it makes sense. This was Goliath. I had another little one, which we might be able to see later. This was basically supposed to be the house robot. And it's kind of really underpowered just because there's zero support up here. Just because it needs to rotate, but also it appears I have taken something out from the top here. But the entire thing was just kind of stupidly designed. I liked the design frame. I kind of modeled it off Bigger Brother and Little Sister. But as a house robot, it was literally just big, and that was the only thing that it had going for it. Because the tiny little tooth at the bottom, it's so far away that there's not enough torque to really get a good action on it. Like, let's just shove this thing under here, and then I also didn't really have like a good way to flipping it. So, like, the only actuation is this. Like this, I have this little lever back here. And yeah, this thing's big, so it can't really be flipped over, but like this has, it's much easier to flip than this over here. Because the only actuation point is this one piece right here, and it also locks up down there. On to the next one. I think I did the video on this one as well. This was Guillotine. Massive hammer that was also adjustable up and down, because that's really important. It had an alternate identity as I think I called it Rhinoceros or something. Just use the back as a flipper. You can put the hammer spike on the other end of the green piece and it would be able to act as a flipper. I really like this one. It's like one of the only hammers I actually ever felt was kind of good that I ever made. The flipper bit of it didn't really work that much. It was kind of just an extension of the hammer, but oh well. I like having just a giant thing I could just swing over. And it could deal some pretty nice damage as well. Especially to like if I had a more solid base plate, not really like this. But it would be nice to get some good hits. You can line it up and it could just punch straight through one of these. I think this thing went through a couple of iterations as well. I had these like little wedgelets at the front too. It's pretty delicate, but it's kind of fun. This would not survive at all in real life. This, I forgot the name of. It was supposed to be just a rival of Goliad. Except angled. Because angle's fun. It could technically function the other way, but I never really ran it like this. Just because it's hard to move. It's kind of like on skids this other direction. Great camera work I'm seeing. But, another thing where it's just a giant spinner. Spinners are fun. I think this is another like Junker bot that I made, kind of like this thing, which Goliad was a lot more solidly built together. This thing's more like spare parts. Like you can see, these are not the same sort. But the axle's actually pretty better than Goliad's. Although Goliad is better when you have the actual pieces originally came with, which it had these sorts of pieces, I'm pretty sure, that then stuck up through the entire system, and that would be the axle, rather than just the motor. But, oh well, you can only do so well with K'NEX at some point in time. I have a random, like, laptop screw right here. Plus a whole bunch of other bits that have come off of these things in the past. They're kind of delicate, as you might imagine. And I have lost that screw. No, I did not actually lose a screw. Okay. This bin just kind of stores a whole bunch of shit. Look, manuals. From all the little K'NEX things I've gotten. I like K'NEX a lot. But obviously I fell off of them. This was another Junker. I wanted to make it out of these curved bits because I really needed something to do with them. And flippers are my go-to for anything K'NEX related. You can tell this is a Junker because I'm actually using tape instead of actual spacers for a lot of this stuff. I think it had something to do with like aliens as its theme. Or like, it might have actually been a knockoff of another one of my better robots. My Mary Sue robots, I guess you'd call them. The flipper's kind of bad because there's zero support halfway through it. But it's kind of fun. It can just get knocked around and it'll survive most of it. I also tried to give it like an actual faceplate. That's what the tape was. You get it torn through immediately because, you have sharper little bits that just go through anything. But it'll be kind of fun. It just gets tossed around a lot. But yeah. I'm not good at making these sorts of horizontals, but this one I wanted to make a wheeled horizontal spinner that's kind of I don't know, my answer to like what Tombstone or Carbide would be in this season. This thing has a pretty neat drive system, or at least mounting for it, just because I wanted it inset and inside the frame, and that made it kind of difficult to do with this sort of construction, because obviously there's not like a back piece that you can just easily mount off of. These are actually floating, so yeah, I thought that was a pretty neat system. I did also make this blade at some point, I think for a different robot, and I wanted to put it onto a horizontal, and I haven't made like one of these things before, so at least a mid cutter. I think this makes a pretty nice sort of spinner. Obviously, I'm not able to do much with it just because there's not many opportunities to fight these, and they're also. This was also made towards the like later end of when I was actually into K'NEX, but it's pretty fun. It has a couple beach points, but you know, this was really when I started getting like more into like actual robot design, like what's practical, what's not. This completely impractical. There's this like nub thing that's there. It's literally just for aesthetic purposes. This is, you know, it's practical. You could make this in real life and it could probably do decently. Maybe not the best, but it could work at the very least. Like obviously transferring to real electronics and stuff. Wedge, mid cutter stuff. I don't know why I didn't add supports. I think they probably got taken out for both actually being able to spin the damn thing, but also just because I needed parts for other things. Okay then, let's do this one. Sawblaze, or no, SOB clone. Another junker, just supposed to be able to go in, blah. This is part of a series of robots I made that kind of followed the same sort of design principle of arm in the back, spinner thingy in the end. I think I actually had this one go through a championship run, kind of like SOB. But besides that, you know, it's just kind of there. I don't know what I can say for all of these things. I don't remember their names at all. I'm realizing this thing is a terrible flipper. You can't put like any force into it just because there's no action. Okay then. Wanted to mess around with this gear and also wanted to mess around with stanced wheels. Probably going to be a sportsman. It was invertible, kind of, but I didn't have any space just because of the giant gear. Also, apparently it hits itself. This was part of another series of robots that I had all these gears and I wanted to do something with them. Like this one. This one's name was Gear Traction or something like that. Pretty neat, actually. Had these wheels, they kind of interacted with these gears, and I could kind of like kill like a gear drive direct. This was meant to be basically a tank, which it very much so served as, except for these like little nuptial bits that stuck out. Just because it's basically just a solid brick of plastic. You know, I ram into you and you die, sort of thing. It's convertible. Thought it was pretty nice at the time, at least. It was obviously one of the more boring ones. So basically, whenever I had a giant spinner, I would be able to chuck it against it, and it might die, it might not. Goliath is apparently too big for it, but it makes some pretty nice noises. It's pretty light. It can get chucked around by a lot of things. Yeah, this was part of what happens if I do Iron Awe in this sort of format. This was called, I think, like Alpha 7. I made alphas like 1 through 7 all in the exact same car ride with very slightly different modifications. And this is just when I stopped. I think this one actually did have a pretty nice flipper design. Just because, you know, you have all this action at the back. Really flip it up. Not like this, you don't have anything. It also is long and skinny and floppy and everything. It's just kind of bad. But like Iron Awe, it's kind of just a generic flipper. It works. It's pretty good. I think I liked it being a bully character. Just in these sorts of competitions I did, but you know, you need some of those. This was Satellite. I based it off of Crossfire from King of Bots, except it was also kind of like even worse than that because it did not move. I think it relied on like being a vibration spinner, and obviously it's gonna be kind of bad because this is not a good spinner design. It's literally just a solid disc basically. So you know, it didn't fight much. I think this thing kind of just sat on the corners a lot of times to get beat up. This is one of my earliest ones. It's gone through a couple design iterations. I forgot what its name was though. But it has a whole bunch of saw blades and other spinning things, and then I upgraded it to this. It used to just be a single disc, probably based off of Revolution 2 from Robot Wars. But I don't think it ever did very well. It was just another like one of those fodder robots that you have to have in order to have a competition. But you know, I thought it was pretty neat at the time. Had these close tolerances that kind of stacked up. This one feeds into something else. So this is combined the Chibi Multibot. I have this robot called Chibi, which is basically just the GOAT of this entire series. And basically what happens if I make a smaller version of it, which is Chibi Junior right here. And then, well, this is a small robot, so added in another robot, and then you have a multi-bot, right? Yeah. So this size is probably like Chibi Destructor or something, and then you have Chibi Junior, who is probably too powerful for its own good. This is like the only design that actually kind of works really well. So I think it's got like it feels like it's got an exponential power curve, so you have to press pretty hard right down, and then it just flips out. So, you know, kind of like one of those overpowered flippers. What the fuck? I have lost a yellow, white bit. Oh well, it is gone. We'll find it later. But, you know, it's kind of fun. Just flips around a lot. Destructor never did too much, because this is a bad design, and also that leg is just so steep. We'll figure it out later. So, Helichopper, basically, except it has two separate spinning things. This is, I think it had it as the same team as Satellite over there. It actually probably was. This originally did actually come from a helicopter, if I'm thinking correctly. From a Helicopter Connect set, which is somewhere over here. I don't know. But you'll have to trust me, it came originally from a helicopter base. And then I slowly modified it over time to have this entire shell. And it's not very powerful. The tooth geometry is just not there. It's kind of fun that it just keeps spinning all around in there. I don't even know what this piece is for. It's probably just like lights or something. But yeah, it was originally part of a helicopter, and that's about the most you can get from it. And also it falls apart really easily because it was literally only the top nub, which I have up here, this top nub to keep it on, so it would apex around a lot. This is another earlier one, or at least based off of an earlier design. I had this one drum I made really early on that was a whole bunch of these stacked into a blue piece. And obviously that didn't do too well, but it was basically this exact same design. So went back after I destroyed the drum and remade it to be a little bit bigger. And that's this. Drums are kind of terrible in Connects because you can't put enough kinetic energy into them. And they never really hit that hard. They always spin down too fast. But, you know, I had these darker pieces and I thought it would be cool to remake it. I think it might have had a bee theme. I don't know why. I just thought it was kind of like small and cute. So does bees. Cause that makes sense, right? Yeah, definitely. Oh look, another hammer bot, except this one's even more shit. Because it has 0 support again. I think this was part of the What series of robots, or at least by the same team. I don't know, it was kind of maybe decently competent. Not much to say about it. It probably got wrecked again. Okay, speaking of What, this is What. It is a flipper of sorts, so I wanted a front hinge flipper, but I also wanted to be able to do other stuff with it. So it can do this, kind of act like Defender, or it can just flip up traditionally. I say flip, it really is more just like a control bot. It's probably like the only decent lifter I've ever made. You know, it can fork over and under. Yeah. But it can also wedge underneath. And then, you know, if you get up there, then you can just be sent flying. So it's kind of fun. I mostly used it like Defender, except as an actual flipper. It was 4-wheel drive, I remember that. You can always tell because I have these aligned correctly to do so. This is technically What for. I don't know where the other 3 Whats came from. I probably made them eventually and then destroyed them just to have the excuse to make this. And this thing was a decent like title contender every single year just because I liked it, liked playing around with it, and you know, it's a pretty versatile robot, and I liked flippers, even though it's very much so boring and would probably never get accepted on the actual BattleBot show. But it's, I guess, like Voltronic, kind of just is there. I think this is called Anglerfish, just because I had a bunch of angles in the flipper. I actually kind of made like the pneumatic ram for this one with just this yellow stick. Obviously, you can't make it actually work like that, but yeah. This came out of the same design as this, like, thing with all the bendies. It was very delicate. Flipper never works correctly, but, you know, it's kind of fun. I think I based it off Bigger Brother again. Bigger Brother has a lot of inspiration into a lot of these designs, but the ram bit does interfere with the flipping action, and also since it's only 2-wheel drive and not really supported anywhere except by its flipper base, then it doesn't work the best. I have these, I guess these are self-righting tongs. I have no idea why these are here. Also, this thing is delicate as shit apparently, because I just broke it. Mildly, not bad. The wheel guard came off. This is probably another attempt to replicate Chibi, except with a different design style and philosophy. But it's actually a pretty solid flipper. Arm, the actual flipping action itself is not the best. Obviously, I like better flippers, but yeah. Okay then. This thing also actually originated out of the helicopter. So when I split the helicopter apart, this was basically the frame of the helicopter. Obviously I've modified it since then, but this got the helicopter blades, and this got the helicopter chassis, if I remember correctly. And obviously, they had a rivalry or something, or were part of the same team, I don't know. But, you know, you have Big Wedge facing Big Spinner. Who's gonna win? Obviously, the Big Wedge a lot of the time, just because this thing can't do damage. Okay. This has a different blade than I remember. But, just supposed to be like 259. it might have had a name related to 259. I did not realize I made this 3D as a design, at least. Except it can partially move. That's kind of neat. Wouldn't really work in real life, but you know, it has kinetic energy that it doesn't actually have anyways. I think this used to be taller as well, to have a bigger blade that I kept putting on Guillotine, just because Guillotine has a giant, you know, crossbar that I can put a spinner on as well. I think I showed that spinner before, but you know, this is just 259 Greenspan copy. Because I like Greenspan, unlike some people. Okay, I lied. This was actually the helicopter. So I have no idea what the origin of those two is. They probably fought in the same, like, league as this. But this is much more a helicopter. You can tell because I would not have been able to come up with this front end by myself. And why I put a horizontal spinner on it? Well, it's a helicopter. You gotta put it there somewhere. It looks like it probably does maulers a lot. Yeah, it's pretty fun. This thing actually probably would have been better as a horizontal spinner than the other two. Just because it actually has a tooth. Rake angle. I don't know. I don't really know what rake angle is. Oh, this is kind of fun. Wedge flipper. If you could actually use the vertical spinner. This is part of my like fork and tong series. I have no idea what its name was. It probably had fork or tong in it. But you could obviously flip with the back. Or you could use it as a hammer. As I miss. Or you could take it with the puny little vertical spinner. I think this actually has a pretty decent chance in real life. I have no idea how it would actually do, but you know, it's kind of neat. Be able to do a little bit of damage with this, with that. It's kind of like, it's part of the same series as this, obviously, you know, arm, spinner. It's just like where you can put said spinner and where you can put said arm, what can you do with them. So, you know, I do wish there was like a robot like this, although there probably is, I just don't know what it is. Literally named Barbarous, because I liked full body drum spinners, and Barbarous is underrated. This is one of my first explorations into different tooth geometry across a spinner. Obviously, it didn't do very well because there's barely any space between the wheels, and drum spinners are kind of just bad in connects anyways. Oh gosh, this thing was supposed to be a stupid dumb bot, and it was a very stupid dumb bot because I didn't like it that much. It started out as a front hinge hammer or something, kind of like the early iterations of Beast. You know, you had hammer, flipper combination, and then it just slowly transitioned into this front hinge flipper design. Never did as good as which it constantly got beaten by, just because this is a better design, and I liked it better. But, you know, it was alright, I guess. I'm just having fun. That one's probably gonna get destroyed, though. Okay, let's see what goes next. We can save that one for a little later. Why do I still have chain from the roller coasters? I don't know. That thing is broke, so we can do this one. This was part of the same series as that other robot. Probably has a similar name to Fork and Tong, except it was like Fork and Hammer or whatever. Kind of like Complete Control, except in a different form factor and worse. So you can kind of see that these are pretty similar in design philosophies. They have kind of a block or wedge shape. I think this is also supposed to be a ripoff of Chibi, which we have not gotten to yet because I'm purposely holding off on it. Yeah, hammer, flipper. You can do some fun different combinations of lifting and flipping and hammering and all that whatnot with it. So I think I got a decent bit of screen time when I actually played around with them. Okay, I forgot this thing's name. It was actually one of my only wheeled ones because I wanted to make another wheeled flipper. I didn't have enough of those. This feels like an upgrade of Alpha, which you can definitely tell. Same sort of thing, just what if I made it bigger and also with wheels and actual wheel guards. I also wanted to make like an actual brick flipper. So I actually kind of like this design here. Obviously a really big flipper. Well, actually, how big? So it suffers the same thing from the, like, being big is not always better. You can only put so much torque through it until it connects brake, but, you know, I liked it well enough to keep it around at least. There's several other ones I've never actually done or kept around, but, yeah, it's pretty nice. This thing is one of my first ones I ever made, at least at school. This originally came from my 4th grade classroom. I forgot what its name was, but it wrecked shop there. So then I remade it at home when I got the pieces to do so. It's a full body spinner, and because it actually has all of its mass in the outside, it could actually do a decent amount of damage. So I liked it. Also, it has some nostalgic value. I used to play with this another kid called Alex, and we would just, after we finished our math homework, go and do this, and I was really fast at doing my math homework, so I could take this and the other ones and just wreck shop. That's also kind of how Barbarous came about, and a couple other ones I think, but I don't remember them that much. Yeah, I would also put this on here, I think, or some other disc on here. This was just another base spinner. Kinda didn't do too well. That one's probably gonna go in the scrap bin as well. This was the other half of a multi-bot that came about from spare parts and also from, you know, like the Gear Traction series. Just because, you know, as I said before, these are smaller. They're supposed to be tanks that could take a lot of damage and then ruin some spinner or whatever. Doesn't do too well, but, you know, it's an axle bot, doesn't need to do that great. Just needs to be there. Oh boy. Okay. So, remember this thing? Well, I made it bigger at one point. I shrunk it down for this. It originally had this blade on it. Yeah, you can tell it would not work very well because the base was not much bigger anyways. I think I used these white pieces before to create the crossbar, but yeah, I would put this on here and it would actually do pretty well. Just because, yeah. I think this is my first off-center or asymmetric blade design, and it is like perfectly balanced as well, which is actually pretty neat. Let's see if I can get this hammer up quickly enough. It doesn't matter. This is a 30-minute long plus video. It's going to be like an hour long by the end of this. But you can take guillotine, take this, put it into the center here. Not lose all the pieces. And struggle to put it back in. And boom, you had a giant vertical spinner that does not work apparently. I know there's versions of guillotine that work with this. Clearly not this one. I think I had to do some other modifications to it, I guess. Which kind of makes sense, I guess. I'd probably take these, spread them out a little bit, drop it down. A couple of things to do with it, but you know, it's really nice to have giant vertical, just like a disc. I'm pretty proud of how I managed to get it balanced. Like you can see, it stops there, it stops there, stop here, there, blade all the way down, it stops there. You know, it was pretty neat to get it working correctly. I don't know. I'll definitely keep the blade around. I think it's really neat that you can actually balance these things correctly. If you spun it faster, it wouldn't work, but you know, it's good enough for K'NEX, and not you can even get that far. We're starting to get into ones I actually kind of remember the names of, except for this thing. Hi, we're gonna move over here because there's too many things over there. This was based on Behemoth. And also a mix of these smaller bits that I had too many of and didn't know what to do with, so created another robot out of it. And it has eyes too. Yeah, it has eyes, these bug things. It originally started out as like another fodder bot, just because the small bits at the bottom made it really easy to destroy. And this design in general is pretty easy to destroy. It has a back flipper too, for whatever use that would be. It lifts from here to there. Yep, so useful. But it would actually end up doing pretty well just because it doesn't need to get under you. It just needs to engage these bits against all of your spiky bits, and it's able to then flip you. And it has the little bit of a lip to it, but you know, it's actually able to do something, which is something that a lot of robots can't do. And also when you're dealing with wheel bots, this is pretty good design. It's definitely based off of Behemoth, and it does not have the same sort of ability to roll another robot around, or to protect against horizontals very well. But you know, it's pretty fun. That was staying around. This is Fork and Tong. Remember when I was talking about that? Well, this is it. This is, I think, another one that I made at school and then replicated kind of at home. I may have actually taken it to school at some point. But this is, I wanted to make a flipper out of these giant long bits. And this is what I came up with. Also has wheels, which is pretty fun. This is like another one of the earlier ones I actually had wheels for. I did not know what Fork and Tong meant, but, you know, I like that it can just go, like, flying up and down. I did purposely limit its travel, with this red bar, but also these green bits. It would also get stuck in the up position before, but you could kind of grip it from multiple places. You can do that if you just want to, like, show off a little bit, but you could also grip into here, and you could really, like, just launch like that. Sometimes these yellow bits would get broken, and the entire like front bit actually kind of acts like forks. Although you kind of really didn't need it because Brit Flipper Designs, the entire front is on the ground. But I didn't like it as much when the front was hinged, because it would do that, and I couldn't drive it as well. But I thought it was pretty neat that I could actually like move it around on carpet and stuff. I used to have a giant cardboard plate over here. I don't know where I got it from, but that was where I did all my fights, and it would get torn up a lot because I would drive people into it. And also the that full body spinner right there would just absolutely wreck it whenever it went over it, because these dig down and it would just tear it up. Also, when you drove another opponent into it, it would go under, tear it up even more. And yeah, I don't know what this little one's called. I just wanted to make something out of all the mini bits, and you can see I did it. It basically never competed because it was too much of a pain to put back together. I don't know why it is able to angle like that too, but I tried to make it as strong as I could. Put as many like connections into it. Obviously, I failed because I just crushed it. Yeah, great design, everybody. Another gear. Let's see. Okay. This is Pompeii. Another one of my earliest designs that I liked the most. It was really just this four-wheel drive bit, but then I added this vertical spinner. And obviously I had some supports, as well there too. But it actually had this tooth. This would also just act as its flipper. And it was really fun that I could just cowabunga it into another robot and then like mess around with it with the gear at the front. But you could just boom. It was basically just Tornado or Storm 2, except in this series of robots. It was definitely one of my favorites, and it was a very simple design, but it didn't need to be very complicated. It just needed to be fun, and it was very much so. It could just stick its dick everywhere. Okay then, let's do this one. I forgot what its name was. I think it was like Dragon something, but it was just a really compact vertical, with really compact robot, neat chassis design, vertical spinner, kind of along the similar lines of the vertical spinner we saw at the beginning of this episode or video or whatever. I don't think it ever did too well, just because it suffers from the same issues as the other one. Also, I can't spin it up very quickly, but it's nice. I could just use it as a grinding disc. It's somewhat vertical. I think it was somewhat inspired by Monsoon when it comes up. Obviously not as good, but it's fun. I really like the chassis design. It was completely impractical, but I thought it was pretty neat. I really liked it. I'm having some fun. Things decently complicated. How I got to fit all together is a miracle. I could probably structurally support it a little bit more, but there's only so much time in the world to do stuff, and I ran out of passion for stuff. I liked putting those little nubs everywhere. Alright, this is Chibi. This was just the goat. I love everything. It was very solid as a flipper. This is also one of my first ones. I made out of excavator, which is another one of the earliest sets I got. But yeah, I really liked the flipper design. It was very intuitive, easy to use. I could get underneath it really quickly and just flip up really quickly. And it would also flip around a lot, so that was fun. I ended up retiring it after a while just because it kept getting destroyed and I needed to keep replacing pieces. It originally did not have these wheels, I think, but I added them in a later revision to it. Also did not have the center crossbar, but I added that again later. This vertical spinner was just like, why not? I already made the goat, so why not add a vertical spinner to it? And it was just really fun. It was named Chibi because it was small, I had the eyes, and it started out as the robot that could. I thought it was really cute, really neat. And just the way that that your first design does have. But it ended up started getting outclassed as I got bigger with my robots. This was towards the end of my Connect journeys. This is towards the beginning. There is a clear size difference here. You put next to Goliad. Yeah, these two are similar. This just has a giant spinning blade. But this just gets absolutely dwarfed by it. Yeah. It just goes flying. It was fun because it went flying itself a lot, and it could still put up a fight, But yeah, you just had to start working more for it. It was really fun when you had it with Pompeii though, as you could maybe see there, but you just drive into it and it'll just go flying. Both of them could. But also just because Pompeii was perfectly designed to go underneath the forks of Chibi. So you could just go under and really launch it. I think I had it like once or twice where it would work. Also, Pompeii's frame would actually warp, which is never something that actually mattered. But, you know, it was really fun that you could do that. But, you know, it gets outclassed eventually. And you make some revisions. A lot of the flippers here are based off of what if we do Chibi but better, or something like that. Like, yeah, it's kind of the same sort of design philosophy of keep it small, but keep like this sort of flipper design. A lot of it stems from this piece right here at the top corner. This entire flipping arm just came apart. But yeah, Chibi was just kind of like really well designed for the first robot I made. You know, you had the brick right here that made show that you couldn't really take it out immediately. Just kind of all held together. Wheels, you know, it's really nice. But that is all the K'NEX robots I've made. I don't know if I'll keep all of them, but I'll at least keep some of them. Like, I have sentimental value attached to a lot of these things. Yeah. Let's see. Random parts, that blade just came off. Oh yeah, there's also this thing, which technically fought, but yeah, this was Lunar Rover. Part of the same thing as, again, Satellite. This was, I think, made from Legos that I had that just happened to form this. It was a Axelbot flipper. I didn't play with it that much just because I kind of forgot that it even existed. But yeah. And the rest of this is just my collection of remaining Trackmasters, which I guess we can go over those real quick, because why not? This was my first Thomas. Literally the thing that started all my Trackmasters. I painted it brown for some reason because I liked rust. And I like things that decayed a lot. And yeah, there's this one channel on YouTube that also kind of inspired me to do it. To make it like a custom or something. Probably inspired by the Barry 10 or something. This Percy does not work, but it was also my first Percy, and also my second engine. I found this at a thrift store. But it was also really old, so I kind of liked it. Chinese. Literally the only reason I kept it. My first purchase of an engine. Also, I painted it again, because Arthur was kind of a dick to begin with, but then I slowly grew to like this design. So, yeah. This is the only piece of wooden railway stuff I have. Again, Chinese. I kept it. I just like Emily. I really like the big wheel. The Sterlings are always really nice. I really like the front half, but I gotta keep the rest of it. I like how low and sleek her design was. She's just the best. Absolutely best girl. I have, there we go. Picked this up at a train show once. I probably got overpriced for it. I bought it the same show I got a Murdoch. Well, I almost got a Murdoch for $20 for him. And the person bought it. Someone else bought it. I marked it up to $50. So I was not able to buy that as a 12-year-old. I don't know if this thing ever worked, but I did some soldering work to get the batteries connected back again. But, you know, I liked Edward's, at least this action. I should have kept the Dennis I had, which I probably overpaid for as well, but, you know, I didn't. And it's gone now, so, yeah. Oh, I should clean out those batteries. Oops. So this was a Spencer, I think, and a Light Up Thomas that I took apart and stuck together because I liked Garrett locomotives, and this was as close as I was going to get to it. Anyways, that's all my connects, and also some extra Trackmaster stuff. Why not? Anyways, I guess I will see you when I decide I have something else to record. Bye.